Turning now to the Biden-Harris transition, CBS News confirms the president-elect has chosen retired General Lloyd Austin to be his defense secretary. It's yet another historic nomination for the Biden team. If confirmed by the Senate, General Austin would become the first African-American to lead the country's 1.3 million active duty troops. Nikole Killion is following the story and everything we need to know about the incoming Biden administration and is joining me now from Wilmington, Delaware. So first question. General Austin is no stranger to the Pentagon. What can you tell us about Austin and why his appointment is so significant?
Well, the top line is what you just mentioned there, is that if he is confirmed by the Senate, he would be the first African-American to ever lead the Pentagon. But he also brings a lot of military experience. He was the former head of U.S. Central Command. He oversaw the withdrawal of forces in Iraq, and so certainly well known within the military community. Certainly one potential hitch is that his nomination would require him to get a waiver from Congress, since he did recently serve in the military. He's a retired four-star Army general. He left back in 2016. So for that reason, he would need that waiver, which could potentially be an issue when his nomination comes up. But we certainly have seen that with other previous defense secretaries, most notably with General James Mattis. And, you know, as far as reaction, we're hearing one of the first reactions we got was from a key member from the Congressional Black Caucus who really heralded this pick and the historic nature of it. Certainly the Congressional Black Caucus has been very active in trying to advocate people of color, particularly African Americans, for many of these key posts and positions. So they do see this as a significant pick.
Yeah, and as I understand it, Joe Biden and General Austin actually have a pretty close relationship, and we know that's something that Joe Biden really values, having sort of a tight one-on-one relationship with someone, which might be why he's willing to sort of hope that a waiver will be granted. It doesn't happen very often, but as you point out, it has happened before. In the meantime, though, President-elect Biden is expected to announce members of his economic and domestic cabinet before the end of the week. What more do we know?
Well, we don't. That's sometimes the Biden transition likes to keep it that way. I mean, look, you know, what we did hear from the president-elect yesterday to reporters is he was asked how things were going with regard to his picks for defense secretary. He said then that he would name his nominee on Friday, and then we got the name of a retired General Austin, and certainly a more formal announcement could happen sooner than Friday, according to some aides. But he was also asked about where things stand as far as justice and his attorney general pick, and he said that possibly could happen this week, although his office later put out a statement then saying that the president-elect will likely announce more of his nominations before Christmas, and that we can expect some more economic and domestic appointments later this week. I mean, certainly that could cover a broad range of positions. For instance, with the economic team, we know there are positions like U.S. Trade Representative or Commerce that still have yet to be filled. You know, domestically speaking, there are positions like education and you know, interior. So there's really a lot there that we still have yet to find out, that has yet to be announced. What we do know as far as the Justice front and Attorney General, which is another significant cabinet post, is that some of the contenders include Sally Yates, who previously served in the past administration, and also certainly is very notable kind of for her roles in the department. You also have people like Doug Jones, the senator from Alabama, who's been mentioned, and also potentially Deval Patrick for a position within justice. But again, those are just names. Obviously, we leave it to the transition and the president-elect to make those official. And again, timing on that still unclear.
The president-elect is getting ready to meet with the leaders of civil rights organizations today. Derrick Johnson, the president of the NAACP, one of them. We spoke with Johnson recently about the incoming administration's agenda and commitment to adding more diversity to his cabinet. I want to play some of what he had to say.
We want to focus on the policy priorities. This president cast a vision that his administration will be based on four pillars: economy, COVID, racial justice, and climate. And we want to make sure that racial justice is a strong pillar and that the policies that germinate from there go across this administration and implement it in ways in which we can look back over the 4 years ahead of us and say this was a successful administration.
So Vlad and I actually spoke to him, but that is a portion of the interview that you had with him. When we spoke to him, he really reinforced the idea that it wasn't just about putting brown and black faces and women in prominent positions. It was also about the types of policies that these individuals would champion. What did you get from him? Specifically, what does he want to see done?
Yeah, well, those were points that he also reiterated as well, that he doesn't want this to devolve into a fight over who should be in the cabinet and, which names and positions need to be filled by people of color, that really their primary concern going into this meeting is advocating for those issues, those policy areas that can have an impact on everyday Americans and everyday African Americans. And so to that end, he really did talk up the issue of racial justice as being critical to achieve across all lines, as you've heard him mention there. For instance, he pointed out the water crisis in Flint, which he says has yet to be fully resolved. And that's an example of how, things can transcend across a number of different areas, and that it really is important to get back to some of those key issues that have been raised, but not necessarily fully addressed. But look, make no mistake, certainly there is high interest in who serves in these cabinet posts as well, and certainly many of these organizations, whether it's the NAACP, the Urban League, Dr. Reverend Al Sharpton, who will be a part of these meetings, they would like to also see more people of color in these senior roles, and they're not the only groups that are advocating for that, but they do feel strongly it also is important to have a seat at the table, especially when you are trying to craft policy.
Nikole, thank you so much.